I'll honestly confess what
with my
happened that night.
brother-in-law and I
Dear viewers, today I'd like to
about
tell
an
you
unforgettable experience in my life.
I want to confess to one mistake that was perhaps the most embarrassing and shocking.
This story is my personal experience, but I believe it will also serve as a cautionary tale for all
Reminding
of
us of the importance of understanding and caring for the essence of relationships. My name is Lehigh Ryan, an ordinary 25-year-old office worker. From now on, I will tell you about my experiences very honestly but carefully so as not to cause any misunderstanding. Before I share this shocking confession, I have a request to make of you, my beloved viewers. The person who made this video said that before I start confessing, I earnestly request that you all subscribe, like, and leave lots of comments. I would appreciate it if you would take this as meaning that I can continue this video for a long time thanks to your interest and consideration. Then I will begin my confession right now. It goes back to last summer. My sister gave birth to her long-awaited first child. It was a joyous occasion for the whole family, and I was also very happy about the birth of my nephew. My sister was admitted to a postpartum care center to recover after giving birth. And my brother-in-law was unable to take care of all the things for my sister and the baby, as well as the housework, on his own. I couldn't just watch my beloved sister suffer. Naturally, I thought it was my duty to step forward and help my sister, and she asked me for help too. At that moment, I grabbed my sister's hand without hesitation, because helping my sister was a natural thing for me. Every day after work, I went to my sister's house. My workday usually ended around 6 p.m., and it took me about 40 minutes to get to my sister's house by public transportation. When I arrived at my sister's house, it was already almost 7 p.m. From then on, my nights were filled with time for my sister and niece. It was my job to wash and organize my sister's clothes and baby items, as well as prepare the items she would need at the kitchen the next day. I practically lived at my sister's house on weekends. While my sister was at the kitchen, I took care of my brother-in-law's meals and didn't neglect to dust and clean the house. After my brother-in-law left for work, he stopped by the postpartum care center to check on my sister's condition and bring her the necessary items. My sister felt bad asking me to do this and that, but I really wanted to help her. My sister used to deliver things like breastfeeding supplies and baby diapers from my nephew to my niece at the right time. And then I went back to my sister's house and repeated the routine of cleaning and preparing dinner. Honestly, I was very tired, but I didn't even realize how hard it was, because I thought it was for my beloved sister and my beautiful newborn niece. Especially when I looked at my nephew's cute hands and feet, I couldn't help but smile and all my fatigue seemed to disappear. I also gave my niece a small doll as a gift. That day, just like any other day, I spent the day going back and forth between my sister's house and the postpartum care center. It was a hectic schedule going to work early in the morning. Working late into the evening, running to my sister's house after work to help with housework, and then going
My
to the
body felt
postpartum
heavy
care
as
center to
1,000
see my
pounds,
sister.
but my heart was full of joy.
After talking with my sister for a while at the postpartum care center, I returned home and it was already late afternoon. The journey back home after seeing my sister and niece in good health always brought me a little happiness. As I entered my sister's house, only silence greeted me. The house was empty, and a sense of silence hung over it. My brother-in-law was at work and my sister was at the kitchen, so I thought there would be no one there. I arrived home drenched in sweat. The weather that day was unusually hot and the humidity enveloped my whole body. I couldn't stand the sticky body any longer. I felt like I couldn't stand a single moment without washing. Like someone who has discovered an oasis while walking in the middle of a desert, all I could think about was the urgent need to shower. I went into my sister's bathroom and took a cool shower. The cold water flowing over my body seemed to wash away all the fatigue and heat of the day, making me feel incredibly refreshed. While I was showering, the stress and fatigue I had forgotten seemed to flow away with the water. The scent of shampoo and soap filled the bathroom, and I was able to forget all my worries for a moment. Although my body felt much more refreshed after showering with cool water instead of warm water, the heat still didn't seem to go away. Even after I finished showering, my body still felt hot. I looked out the window and suddenly a downpour started. The sky darkened in an instant, and heavy raindrops poured down, hitting the window. Thunder could be heard intermittently, and lightning flashed. Listening to the sound of rain somehow calmed my mind. The scenery outside the window was like a scene from a movie. The shower seemed to cool down the humidity of the hot summer day for a moment. My sister's bed caught my eye. It was the bed my sister and brother-in-law used, but it was empty while my sister was at the nursing home. I threw myself on the bed unconsciously. I think I was suffering from extreme fatigue to the point where I couldn't even think about turning on the air conditioning. The drowsiness after a shower and the sound of the rain instantly lulled me into a world of sleep. There was no sense of caution at the time. All I wanted to do was close my eyes for a moment, and my only goal was to relieve this fatigue. My sister's house was always a comfortable and safe space for me, so I fell asleep without any doubts. So I fell into a deep sleep. After some time had passed, I opened my eyes wide with a strange feeling. The first thing that caught my eye in my blurry vision was an unfamiliar ceiling. Under the dim light, I realized I was lying in my sister's bed. But there was someone next to me. I turned my head in surprise. My heart felt like it was falling to my toes. My brother-in-law was sleeping next to me. I froze for a moment. I felt goosebumps all over my body, and my heart was pounding like crazy. It didn't take long for me to realize I was naked. And what was even more shocking was that my brother-in-law was also naked. There were clear traces of someone loving me on my body. It felt like all my senses were numb. I couldn't believe it. Is this a dream or reality? My mind is in a state of extreme confusion. I wanted to deny reality. I didn't know how to accept the situation. My heart was pounding and my whole body was shaking. I wanted to scream, but no voice came out. I was speechless with shock and horror. Tears just flowed down without stopping. How could this happen? What should I say to my sister? Why is my brother-in-law here and in this state? Tens of thousands of thoughts flashed through my mind like a panorama. I quietly slipped out of bed as if trying not to disturb my brother-in-law, who was waking up, barely managed to pick up my disheveled clothes and ran out of the room. I left my sister's house and headed to her postpartum care center. My unsteady steps led me to where my sister was. It was the middle of the night, but I ran out like a man who had lost his mind. As soon as I arrived at the postpartum care center and saw my sister, I burst into tears, as if all the emotions I had been suppressing had burst out. My cries echoed loudly in the quiet kitchen hallway. My sister was taken aback by my sudden visit and crying, but she held me tightly without saying a word until I calmed down. My sister's warm embrace was my only refuge. After crying for a long time, I finally opened my mouth and told my sister what had happened that day. My voice trembled as I spoke, and my tears wouldn't stop. My sister didn't say anything the whole time she was listening to my story. He just held my hand tightly. My sister's eyes seemed to be filled with sadness and a deep anguish. After finishing the story, my sister let out a long sigh. That sigh seemed to contain countless emotions. Then he opened his mouth calmly but firmly. Hi, Rion. Call your brother-in-law and tell him to come here right now. There was more determination than anger in my sister's voice. There was a glimpse of a determined will, as if trying to sort everything out. I called my brother-in-law as instructed by my sister. My fingers were shaking so much that I had trouble even dialing the number. My brother-in-law didn't answer the phone at first. After several attempts, I finally managed to connect with my brother-in-law, and I relayed what my sister had said. My brother-in-law's voice was very drunk. He vaguely seemed to remember that I had come to my sister's house, but he seemed to have no idea what exactly had happened. His voice still had a hint of confusion, along with a hint of sleep. I waited for my brother-in-law with my sister. That time felt like an eternity. My sister was outwardly calm, but I was still overcome with anxiety and guilt. I tried to read the unknown emotions in my sister's expression. After a while, my brother-in-law arrived at the postpartum care center. My brother-in-law's face was covered with an unreadable expression, along with the fatigue of a hangover. His eyes were bloodshot and his hair was disheveled. My sister looked at my brother-in-law and said nonchalantly, "Hey, listen to Soo-Yun and I talking for a moment." Her voice was so calm it felt even more frightening. And I explained to my brother-in-law what happened that day with my sister. My brother-in-law kept his head down the whole time he was listening to our story. His shoulders slumped and his expression grew increasingly gloomy. Gradually, the color drained from his face and his eyes seemed to shake with shock. After our story was over, my brother-in-law knelt down and apologized with tears in his eyes. His voice was drowned out by the sobbing and could not be heard properly. He said he was so drunk that he had no recollection of what happened. He said he just came home from work and saw me sleeping while trying to avoid the rain, and he seemed to have lost his mind for a moment. His excuses sounded so absurd, but his sincere remorse moved me a little. I was really amazed. How could someone commit such a heinous crime just because they were drunk? My sister was silent for a while. That silence spoke louder to me than all the sounds in the world. I was afraid that my sister might decide to divorce my brother-in-law. I was plagued by guilt, feeling like I was the one who broke up my sister's happy family. Seeing my sister's hurt expression was the most painful thing for me. But my sister's reaction was different from what my brother-in-law and I had expected. My sister asked my brother-in-law quietly, "Brother-in-law, do you really regret this? Are you prepared to do everything you can to repair this relationship?" The brother-in-law nodded, sobbing. "I've never made a mistake like this before. Please forgive me. I have committed a mortal sin. I will live my life atonement to my sister and Hai Ryan." My sister looked at me after hearing my brother-in-law's sincere apology. "Hi, Ryan, how about you? Can you forgive your brother-in-law? And can you do something to protect this family?" I couldn't answer my sister's question. The very word forgiveness felt so distant to me. But at the same time, I could read in my sister's expression a deep concern and a will to preserve this relationship. My sister told us, "This is so painful and shocking for all three of us. But we can't just cover it all up. We have to be honest with each other. And we must all work to ensure that this never happens again." My sister's words seemed to shed a ray of light on my crumbling heart. Her wisdom and composure were a great comfort to me. So the three of us talked for a long time. We were honest about our feelings and thought deeply about what to do next. My brother-in-law apologized repeatedly and admitted his mistake. I was still confused, but thanks to my sister's wise intervention, I could feel my mind gradually calming down. My sister strongly advised my brother-in-law to never get drunk again and lose his senses. He stressed that he must fundamentally change his life to avoid repeating this kind of mistake. And he asked me to be more careful in the future to avoid creating situations that could lead to such misunderstandings. At that moment, I was deeply moved by my sister's great consideration. If she were an ordinary older sister, she would have been furious right away, and the relationship could have ended in ruin. My sister and I were both flustered and concluded that it was a one-time mistake that happened unintentionally. Of course, I can't deny that my brother-in-law bears a greater share of the responsibility, but my sister didn't want the relationship between the three of us to be completely ruined by this incident. Thanks to my sister's wise and sagacious attitude, we were able to avoid catastrophe. This would not have been possible without her patience and love. My brother-in-law and I have become much more careful with each other since that day, and at the same time, we have become more understanding. My brother-in-law started avoiding alcohol and even started avoiding company dinners that lasted late into the night. I started to avoid spending the night at my sister's house or being alone. It was just one mistake, but it left a huge impact on us all and taught us a valuable lesson. It was more than just a simple mistake. It was an opportunity to rethink the nature of relationships. Through this work, we simultaneously realized the complexity of relationships and human frailty. We have come to accept that humans are imperfect beings and can make mistakes at any time. But what was important was the attitude and effort after that mistake. It's important to be honest with each other. Apologize sincerely and be understanding and considerate of each other. My sister and brother-in-law became stronger as a couple after this incident, and their trust and love for each other deepened. I was also able to deeply reflect on the relationship between my sister and brother-in-law and my own actions. I also reflected on my reckless behavior. Dear viewers, I hope that through my confession today, you have realized how much of a ripple effect a single mistake can have. At the same time, I think we can find the possibility of understanding and forgiving each other, and restoring our relationships even in those mistakes. Of course, the process was never easy. It took enduring hurt and pain, and the courage to be honest with each other. But through all that process, we were able to become more mature. The important thing is not to make mistakes. This experience taught me that if a mistake is made, the attitude and effort that follows are even more important. I believe that mutual respect, consideration, and honest communication are the most powerful forces that sustain all relationships. If you think my story has touched your life, please subscribe, like, and leave lots of comments. Thank you for listening to my story for so long. Rest well.